Welcome. You're listening or watching the next episode of Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio. And today I'm joined by a great friend of the show, Craig Wharem. Craig, how are you today?
Couldn't be better, Andrew. I get to chat with you.
Awesome. Excellent. I'm excited. We are here to talk about martial arts summer camps. But before we get into the discussion, I want to make sure everybody knows about all of the stuff that Whistlekick does. Obviously, you can go to whistlekickmartialartsradio.com to find out information on this episode and all of our other episodes. You can find transcripts and links to photos for guests and things like that. You can also find a subscribe button at the top to subscribe to our exclusive newsletter where you'll get notifications on all of the episodes as they come out. But if you go to whistlekick.com, you will find out all of the things we do. Obviously, this podcast is one of the things we do, but you can also go there to purchase t-shirts or hoodies or hats, or maybe you want to buy a book, or maybe you want to find out about Whistlekick Alliance. Maybe you want to find out about all of the events that we host around the country. All of that stuff you can find at whistlekick.com. And if you would like to support the show, there are a number of ways you can do that. One way is you can go right now to YouTube and like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell. Even if you don't watch it, those things help us out. And it costs you nothing to subscribe to our channel. So that would really, really mean a lot. It helps us in the algorithms and helps us get noticed by more and more people. So we would appreciate that. You can obviously tell a friend. That costs nothing as well. So maybe this episode is one that will resonate with a friend of yours. Tell them about it. We really appreciate that. If you'd like to help support the show financially, we would really appreciate it. For as little as $5 a month, you can get extra bonus episodes once a month that they come out, sometimes more than once. Some behind-the-scenes footage and all of that stuff for $5 a month. And you can do that at patreon.com/whistlekick. All right. So, Craig, we got to hurry up here because we don't have a whole lot of time. How come we don't have a whole lot of time?
I'm in camp mode, man. We're doing camp this week, so we're squeezing it in during lunchtime.
So I messaged you and said, "Hey, let's get together. We haven't chatted for a while. Let's do an episode this week." And you're like, "Well, I've got summer camp, but I've got this time off in the middle. Let's do it." So here we are. You're in camp mode. So what a better thing to talk about than summer camp?
It's a blast. Summertime's a lot of fun, and it's really what you make it. And so it's pretty cool right now. We've got 2 camps running at my school. So Noah Dever, who's been on the show and it goes to a bunch of free training days and stuff, he's working with elementary school age kids, and he's doing all sorts of sparring drills and self-defense drills. They're doing some board breaking. And then I'm working with our probably highest level teens from a rank perspective that are working towards leadership levels, and they want to be assisting in class and guiding and helping. And so they're spending the week learning all sorts of leadership stuff and more advanced martial arts as well. So it's been a pretty fun week having 2 camps running, 2 different energies with a lot of fun stuff and some overlap.
That's great. Did you, when you were growing up learning, did you go to martial arts summer camps yourself?
Yes and no, because I started assisting in classes 2 years in to my training. And as an assistant, you were expected to be at the camp and help, especially if you're on payroll like I was. So you wanted those extra work hours, right? So I went to camp every year. We did it when I was a kid. Once I started assisting. Before that, because my parents are divorced, I tended to spend a lot of time in the summer with my dad, which was not nearby. But once it was a job and I was getting that kind of pay thing, it made it more worth it for him to do the hour drive back and forth every day to pick me up until I had my own license. Mm-hmm. But we were teaching things at the camp that I didn't know yet. I was kind of a crowd control assistant. So I got to learn things and kind of help with the crowd control at the same time. So it was the best of both worlds.
The question that always comes to mind when I hear about summer camps, and my school doesn't do them. My old school used to do them a little bit, but I work for some summer camps over the summer that are not martial arts related, and there are half day camps and full day camps. So, what are you doing in your school?
So we do full day. Drop off is between 7:30 and 8 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and pickup is usually 3:30, 4 o'clock for most people, and then we have a 5 o'clock option for other families that need it.
Mm-hmm.
So really what we do is we can't, as camp winds down and our afternoon classes pick up, the camp kids just get folded into a class if they have to stay later,
Mm.
and they just jump into our regular schedule at that point. So that way it's not double staff or over, an added thing for the staff in the afternoon. It's what we do. Because for the most part, we also do our best to have, if staff is running camp all day, they don't do the afternoon because we're fortunate we have a big team.
Sure,
So
sure.
we're able to do that. But there were many years where that wasn't the case and it was kind of a one-man show and I was camp in the morning and teach until 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
And and so what comes to mind for me is I'm thinking in my head, like you've clearly thought about, like, okay, you're doing camp until 3 or maybe say 4 o'clock, and then at 4 o'clock, if there are kids that have to stay later, they jump into class. So at 4 o'clock, you don't have an adult black belt class.
No.
So you've definitely thought about, okay, if there are kids, like you've organized your afternoon regular classes to be such that the kids could be folded in. So that takes a lot of organization and thinking about how that'll work.
Yeah, and well, for me, a key component, I think I talk about it in almost every episode, right, is that anyone can teach and mentor if given the proper training. So, what we do is say maybe we've got a blue belt student who's in camp and needs to get picked up later, and we have a white and yellow belt class at 4 o'clock. The blue belt student is not going to take the class. They're probably the one helping and maybe getting the pads for the teacher, or they're doing something
Mm-hmm.
similar. Because also at the end of a long day, trying to throw them into a really physically intense class where they're doing exercises all over again, they're tired. So we're finding a non, kind of a non-heavy committal way to get them something a little bit special too. Because if we see that they really take to it and like it, now we have a new candidate for assisting classes.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. And the other thing that often I don't want to say I've heard, but I've thought of, or maybe, yeah, I actually have heard it from others that have said, um, if you're going from, drop off, you said is at
7:30.
7:30. So you're going 7:30 to 3, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30. So we're talking 7.5 hours of camp,
Yeah.
right? Maybe even a little bit longer if they stay a little bit later. So instructors, when they're teaching a class, a typical class, an hour, maybe a 2 hour class, they've got a curriculum they're going to go through. You're teaching an 8 hour long class, right? That's what your summer camp is, right? You have these kids going punch kick for 8 hours, right?
Yeah, no. Right now, Noah's camp they're on their lunch break and they're in. Andrew, you've been at our school. We have a room just for our clubs.
Yep.
There's a TV in there playing Kung Fu Panda 2 for them during lunchtime. So they watch a movie. They start a movie at lunch and then they do some more activities after lunch and then they go back and they watch more of the movie. And we just plug away portions of the movie throughout the day. And if we don't finish the movie because we're doing so much other stuff, we just finish it the next day.
Mm.
I think a lot of martial arts camps that I know of, one of the things that they always forget is that resting and having a little bit of downtime is important, not just to maintain the energy all week of your camp, but also it builds a connection, right? And it allows students to spend time just getting to know each other, just playing. Our breaks, we do, my group is a little bit different because they're the more elite. They're the high school kids. They've been around a long time. They usually go for 2.5 hours at a time before a break.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, this morning was all about leadership and teamwork. So we were practicing tying belts onto other people, right? Things that instructors may need that they don't have. and we got it down. We worked the muscle memory, we worked the repetition. We timed ourselves doing it. We timed ourselves doing it and talking through it so we could teach people how. And it was so it's a pretty intensive thing for the leadership aspects, and a lot of it is found in the MATIC courses, right? That we have. That's that those things. This camp is what that's founded on. So, but Noah also has a bunch of board games out on the mat. So when his group or my group are on a maybe 15, 20, 25-minute break, depending on whichever section we're in, they're out on the mat playing board games together. Or some kids prefer to sit in quiet and read a book. They just grab a book and sit in the corner for a little bit and just decompress. So they're not go all day long, because otherwise they're not going to maintain that in the long term. And I think a great way to build confidence in kids is for them to have a place where they're meeting friends and learning that social interaction is a safe environment. And that's hard to do in a completely structured class all day long.
Yeah. Yep. And, I want to go back just really quickly because you mentioned MATIC. And for those that are not aware, MATIC stands for Martial Arts Teacher Training and Certification, which whistlekick has put together in collaboration with you. But just in case people are like, MATIC, what are you talking about? It's a teacher training certification course that we offer. But one of the things you talked about, which I find really interesting, and I think it's an important point to mention and maybe go into further detail on, is that you talked about in your leadership, slightly older kids, you're working on. An example today was tying belts on students, right? Because every martial art instructor out there has had to teach brand new students how to. I mean, everyone who puts on a belt has to know how to tie it, and often the upper ranked are the ones that are helping them out. And so obviously it's a skill that people need to learn, that your leadership needs to learn, but you gamified it. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that's been fun with them this week is they're recognizing just how much goes into the actual teaching, right? A lot of times people watch teachers and go, oh, I could do that. That's an easy job, right? It's easy to teach whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be martial arts. How many people, Andrew, have looked at you and said, I could teach drumming, and then they drum with plastic water bottles, right?
Yeah.
And so for the group I've got, it's an eye-opening experience for them where they learn how to tie the belt on the other person. Because let's face it, 4-year-olds' belts fall off once in a while, and the 4-year-old is going to take forever to tie it on. You might want them to participate in class, so you might have somebody helping them with it. And so to start off, it was just, this is how you tie the belt on somebody else. This is the proper distance to be. Make sure that you're paying attention to what your hands are doing, so you're not, make sure you're tying the belt a little bit higher. Let them set it down on their hips. So we're covering all the safety protocol and the importance of personal space and that sort of thing. On top of that, the next step is now talk through it. I'm going to take the belt, I'm going to put it on your stomach, I'm going to wrap it around the back, I'm going to pull it back around, I'm going to cross it over, and you're explaining it to them. Because every time you tie a belt on a 4-year-old, if all you do is tie the belt and walk away, you haven't done anything with the 4-year-old other than tie their belt. Mm-hmm. If you're explaining it as you go, then they're hearing the steps, they're watching the steps, they're learning. And then after you get that part down, then we start to time you. And we set ambitious goals, right? So the goal today was, if you've never done this before, you want to tie the belt, have it done, and have explained it well with at most 15 seconds. If you've done it before, you want to do it at most at 10 seconds.
Wow.
And we spent an hour on it. And by the end of the hour, everybody could do it. The last person, the longest time was about 11 and a half seconds, I think. And the person who had the most experience with it was doing it, tying it, and explaining it in about 6.5. So now, could they do that every time? Probably not. But was it fun for them to get that it just disguised the repetition of doing it over and over again. The other thing that we did was, everybody gets to learn an advanced form. So I was teaching them the form. And then yesterday afternoon, I said, okay, now we're going to go ahead and I want you to teach your favorite form to your partner. but I want you to do literally what your partner says.
Mm.
Don't assume you don't know it. And if you're teaching, you have to assume your student doesn't know it. You have to do literally what they say. And it was fun to watch them realize exactly how detailed you have to be. And the other cool thing that comes is all of a sudden some of the more advanced students realized they were getting asked questions they didn't have answers to.
Interesting.
And so when that happened, it provided a conversation for me with them to answer their questions and to flesh out probably something that most instructors have had. A student asks a question you don't know have an answer to. We got to play that scenario out in a low stakes environment because they know everybody's there to learn how to teach. So yeah, it's fun, and this is a requirement. We love this idea so much and the things we're doing so much that this is a requirement for anyone who wants to assist in classes. They have to do this camp.
Mm. Yeah, and that, doing things literally. We've all probably seen the video of the person make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but do exactly what I tell you to do. And so they're like, open the peanut butter, take the knife, and then take put the peanut butter on the bread. And so they take the jar of peanut butter and place the jar of peanut butter on the bread, because that's literally what you said. You said put the peanut butter
Right.
on the bread, right? And so those sorts of fun games, for lack of a better word, right? Teaching tools can be really useful. That's great. The other thing that we talked about that I also want to go back and chat about is the downtime, right? Not having, if your summer camp is 8 hours long, obviously you're going to take a break for lunch, but that doesn't mean you're having like a 4 hour class and then lunch and then a 3 hour class, or
Right.
having that downtime gives them a chance to rest and recuperate, but also the thing you mentioned was the social aspect. So I have to imagine, and I could be wrong because I've never been at your summer camp, but you may very well have students in your summer camp that never interact during the regular week at during the school year, because they're in different class levels, or they come to different, what this kid always comes on Monday and this other child always comes on Tuesday, right? They
Right.
never interact. And so this is an opportunity for them to make new friends. And it's hard to do that when you're just punch, kick, learn a form, do this, that.
Yeah, and I think you can do all sorts of stuff where if you know that these two kids have never met, but they both love baseball or they both play soccer, you can be like, oh, you probably haven't met this person. You know what? They play soccer too, so that's pretty cool. You have martial arts and soccer as a connection. And then during the break, be like, just say, hey, who's your favorite soccer player? And then just walk away and just let the kids do it. I do that all the time. In fact, right before I came in for lunch break, we were talking about, we had done at my camp, my crew, we had just done a teamwork drill. And the drill was, in my school, we have really big black squares, rings for sparring and stuff like that. And so what we did was, the ring is molten peanut butter. You can't step in it or you get stuck. You have to get everybody across. It's a pretty common team building exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a couple pieces of equipment. Once they go down in the square, you can't move them unless you want to reset. And so we went through that. That took about a half hour. And then we sat down and we talked about the importance of being on a team and still being an individual. So each team should be comprised of individuals who contribute to the greater team goal. But on top of that, the other thing we discussed was, I went around the circle and I asked, do you know what their favorite color is? Or do you know that person's, other hobbies? Do you know? And I asked them a bunch of do you know questions about each other. They didn't know. And then I stood up and I said, okay, well, I'm giving you about 10, 15 minutes extra on lunch. It's going to start now. And I would like you please to know. I would like you guys to just sit together, just talk. I'm not going to prompt you. Just learn about each other. You're a team. And then I just walked away.
Mm.
And then I looked out my office window, and there's a bunch of teenagers sitting out there on the mat right now having lunch. There's not a cell phone in sight. and they're all talking to each other, and
Hmm.
they're just enjoying their time.
Now, not a cell phone in sight because you have banned them, or not a cell phone in sight just because they have no interest in being on them?
Just because they're talking to each other. So I don't ban phones. They're when they're training and they're active on the mat. Obviously, we're not going to see a cell phone. But during the downtime, they can have them because I like them to make a conscious choice between using it or not using it. Usually, at the beginning of the week, they're all on their phones in lunchtime, and now today's Wednesday of the week. We're halfway through camp, and there's not a cell phone in sight.
Mm.
And I like that to happen organically. And then at the end of the week, I point it out because
Oh,
it's a
interesting.
powerful thing to them
Yeah, yeah.
that a phone can be a lifeline support to other people socially. And when you're uncomfortable, you tend to lean on it as a crutch. But then the more you bond and gel as a team, the less likely you are to want to always be on that phone.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So, and I think that I don't have a problem with banning phones at camp or, saying, no, don't bring your cell phone, you're not going to need it. Like, I totally get that. Um, for me, it's just a different thing. I like to try and I almost take the phones as a challenge on the first day. It's a little bit for me. It's a game for me on how quickly can I get them to lose the phones. And so, as long as you're fostering the right sense of community, and there's a time where they can have them and a time where they can't. Meaning, if we're training, you're learning whatever you're doing leadership drills, you can't have them. Otherwise, I don't care if you have them.
Yeah.
And the less I care about it, the less they care about it.
Interesting. Now, what's your student to teacher ratio? Obviously, I suspect it's different with your high school kids as it is with your younger kids that Noah has. But what do you typically try and have as a student teacher ratio?
Anywhere from 8 to 1 to 10 to 1 is what I try to do.
Hmm.
But also, I try to find an assistant who maybe they're an adult student who's a teacher during the summer or something, maybe something like that, where they're not going to be actively assisting with the kids. And I try to have them come in too, just because for 8 hours, one adult's energy, it becomes monotonous. If you add in a second one or a guest teacher or something, that's helpful. Um, One of my favorite things that we've done before in camps is we do, I call them internal field trips. We don't take the kids somewhere, we have someone come to them. So in the past, we've had somebody who ran like an arts and crafts store down the street, and she brought a bunch of stuff in and did stuff with them. Or we've had wildlife experts come in with a bunch of wildlife before, and the kids got to learn about all sorts of animals. Or we've had, I'm trying to think of what else we've done. Comic book store owners bring in a bunch of comic books and help kids make their own. Like, it's just whatever it is. We try to bring people to us, and so that also it gives the instructor a little bit of time to catch their breath, and B, it gives the kids the opportunity to do something a little bit different.
I dig that. That's really great. The last thing I want to chat about is some states may require certification for running a day camp because some states may see it as day care, right? Which I think many of us would say what we are doing is not necessarily day care. It is a summer camp, but obviously you are in New Hampshire. I don't know I mean, I'm in New Hampshire as well, but I don't run a summer camp, so I don't know the rules. Did you need to get any special certification for this?
No, we're not providing them food. They bring their own lunch and
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. We're not providing transport, that sort of stuff. So our martial arts registration, our martial arts school registration covers the camp. And it's also for a defined amount of time. It's not for a huge amount of time. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure those are um, the only requirements. I inherited these camps from the owner of KI. So I just have always assumed they're compliant.
Well, I'm sure they are.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not doing anything crazy.
Yeah. You're just, you're having fun. You're teaching class. This is great. I hope that people listening or watching, because again, you can go on YouTube and watch. If you go on YouTube and watch, you can see these cool things that I'm holding up right now.
You can also see that Andrew woke up handsome this morning.
That's true. These cool things, but you won't know what these things are. Look, they make noise, but you don't know what they are unless you're watching on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, click that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Whistlekick.com is where you can go to find out everything we do. Whistlekickmartialartsradio.com for this episode and all of our other podcast episodes. The other thing you can do that really helps out, I didn't mention this at the beginning, costs nothing. But if you're listening to this on like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, leave us a review. Those reviews really, really, really help. And it costs you nothing except maybe a couple minutes of your time to write about what you liked about the episode. You can also on YouTube, you can comment right there and tell us what you like about it. If you have suggestions or anything you want to throw my way, you can do that at andrew@whistlekick.com. Craig, people can reach you at
Craig@whistlekick.com.
Craig@whistlekick.com. Thanks for coming on today, Craig. I appreciate you taking time out of your summer camp
problem
to chat. This was great.
It was fun. I had a good time. And I had a few laughs with you, which is nice. That means you were remotely funny today.
Sometimes I tell jokes on Zoom and they don't laugh. And I often think it's because I'm not remotely funny. But I must have been funny today because, you did laugh. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate you coming on the show. And I guess until next time, train hard.
Smile.
And have a great day.